In topic 4.2, our focus is on how soils form and also on soil erosion. We already started talking about this when we were discussing primary succession. We know that the process of primary succession, we can have bare rock, which can eventually weather, begin the formation of soil, and then biological processes can take over to enrich that soil. And so that's sort of what we're focused on here. And so the underlying material, we sometimes call it bedrock, that's underlies the entire lithosphere of the earth. That's also called the parent material. And the parent material, over time, can be weathered by natural geological processes, by water, by ice, by wind, and start to weather and build up a thin layer of this material that is the beginnings of soil. Okay. And once those beginning layers of soil start to form and the first simple organisms can move in, like we talked about moss and lichen and so forth, then the soil begins to form these, what we call horizons, these layers. And so the parent material weathers, organisms eventually die, decompose, building up what we call organic matter, and that starts to contribute to the soil. And as that continues, as more organisms move in, as larger plants move in, then more organic matter is deposited and we start to form a mature soil. We call the layers that form horizons in the soil, and we'll talk more about those in a minute. And so we have this organic matter, we have material from the parent material that has been weathered, as well as minerals, all contributing to the formation of the soil as we know it. And so when we get into a mature, well-developed soil, we see that it forms these different layers with different characteristics. But eventually, if you dig down deep through the soil, you eventually reach the bedrock, the parent material that began the formation of that soil. There are many different factors that impact the formation of soil, the speed of soil formation, the type of soil, the nutrient composition, as well as all of the characteristics of the soil. And so here are those factors. There are different types of bedrock that provide the parent material, and different types of bedrock will result in the formation of different soils with different types of characteristics. The amount of time, climate, temperature, moisture, precipitation, the topography of the land, as well as the organisms present in the area, all of these factors combine to determine the types of soil, the characteristics of the soil that will form in any given area. And so when we look at soils and we think about their characteristics, we often will talk about soil horizons. These are layers that form in soil, and they have various properties. They have different names, and so we'll talk a little bit about them. We'll start at the surface layer. So on the surface of soil, we typically have the O horizon. This is litter, leaf litter, decomposing plants. This is organic matter that is in the process of being decomposed. That's the O horizon. It's also sometimes called humus. Below that is the surface layer, the surface horizon. This is often referred to as the topsoil. It's the A horizon. This is where you have that decomposed organic material from the surface mixed in with underlying minerals that are present from the parent material. So that's the soil, topsoil, the surface horizon. As we continue going down, sometimes we have a zone of leaching. You can see this E horizon, where materials have leached out of this through the percolation of water, have leached out through the A horizon. And you have down here the subsoil. It's mostly minerals. Not much organic material has made it down into these layers. Mostly it's minerals that are a result of the weathering of the parent material. And then you have some partially weathered parent material in the C horizon, and eventually you get down to the bedrock, sometimes called the R horizon, which underlies all of those soils. And we know that the soil is obviously important because it supports all ecosystems. It's also really important for human use in agriculture. We grow crops in the topsoil and soil erosion can have significant impacts on our ability to grow those crops. So soil erosion is the movement of that topsoil layer by wind or by water. And there are natural processes. Soil can erode through natural processes, but various human actions can make that soil erosion worse. Overgrazing of plants by cattle, for example, or other animals can lead to soil erosion. The removal of vegetation and deforestation can lead to an increase in soil erosion because the roots of those plants are not holding on to that topsoil. Tilling practices. We're going to talk about agriculture soon. And tilling is the turning over of the soil, often now by large machinery. And the tilling of the soil can break up the structure of the soil, allowing it to erode more easily. Irrigation over time can also lead to soil erosion. And when soil erosion happens on a major scale, it can be extremely serious. The entire topsoil in a given area can be lost within a year. And that topsoil takes large amounts of time, centuries often, to form. And so once that topsoil is lost, it's not going to be replaced. And also the erosion of that topsoil reduces the ability of the soils to filter water as it travels through and filter out particles, allowing for the recharging of groundwater. Probably the most famous example that you've heard of major soil erosion is the Dust Bowl era in the Great Plains of the United States. We see some pictures here. And the Dust Bowl was a time in which natural factors such as several droughts in the 1930s, along with poor management of the topsoil, led to rapid soil erosion and the loss of that topsoil in that area. And those factors together led to the wide-scale loss on the prairies on the Great Plains of the topsoil, leading to an inability to grow crops and support people. We also know that our soil is important in filtering the water. As water falls, it goes through the various layers of the soil, and each layer acts sort of as a filter, blocking particulate matter, filtering out excess nutrients and contaminants in that water, allowing for that water to eventually percolate down and recharge aquifers, areas in the geologic layers of the earth that contain water. So the soil acts as a filter, allowing for that water to recharge our aquifers.